If you've been losing a lot of games in Valorant and you don't know what mistakes you're making, I got you covered. Because in this video, I'm going to be covering the top 5 Valorant mistakes that players make. And if you can fix and correct these mistakes, you can become that much closer to the great Valorant player that I know you want to be. All that being said, we're pumping out double daily uploads, so get in on the ground floor and smash the subscribe button right this second or else. Anyways, without further ado, let's just jump right into it, shall we? Now, the first big mistake that Valorant players make is giving up positioning to chase a kill. You'd be surprised how many times, for whatever reason, people just want to up their kill count, so they run across the map like idiots, or they give up their good positioning altogether. A lot of times when enemies get aces on you and your team, or they win matchups against a 1v3, it's because your team just gave up their advantage and let the enemy essentially get some free value. Consistency is the key here, and oftentimes when enemies win matchups that are 1v3, it usually just doesn't have to do with them popping off. It has to do with you and your team making tons of mistakes, like giving up your positioning. Really try to not do this and play consistently instead of chasing around the map trying to get kills. Now, this also leads directly into my second point, which is you don't have to be top frag to be the carry. Some characters just aren't kill confirmers and they don't want to get kills, and some kills aren't really worth all that much. The thing that's most important for you to start fixing is your mistakes you make in gunfights. What mistakes are actually getting you killed, not what are you doing to pop off. While sure, you could flank around the map permanently and maybe get a couple of kills, that might not work in every single game and you're building bad habits. Just because it works in one game doesn't mean it's going to work against better enemies, and on top of that, just being top frag isn't everything. There's a lot of times where you'll get kills that really didn't matter. I mean, if you were in a 1v4 scenario and you went in and got 3 kills and then died, sure, you got those 3 kills, but it didn't really make you win the round. Maybe it helped your economy a little bit, but was it really worth the risk when you gave up the op and you gave it to the enemy? There's a lot of different things you need to think about where frags are not all that matters. I know that they're flashy and it's really cool to be top of the leaderboard, but that isn't the end all be all. And on top of that, there's a lot of characters that aren't the fraggers, that aren't the kill confirmers. If you're someone like Silva who wants to gain information or send his teammates in with drone, if you're someone like Sage who wants to heal her team up perpetually, you want to be the last characters to die. You don't want to be the front line because then you might be getting kills, but if you trade, it's really bad for your team. It's really bad if you're the ones that trade. That means that you need to be taking peeks less aggressively. You're not an Engage or someone like Jack. You're not an Engage or someone like Phoenix. So those characters are the ones that you want to enable and set up. You do not have to be the top frag to be the carry. And this is a really important point that I need to portray to you right now. Now, let's talk about the third tip on the list, which is stop baiting your allies. Baiting is a common thing that people do, and let me explain exactly what it is. The best example that I could compare baiting to is it's as if your allies are Raze's drone, her little recon drone that goes on the ground. What does that drone do most of the time? Finds a target, gets killed, and then you know where they are. That is exactly what you're doing when you just wait for your allies to go in, get killed, and then you push in. Your allies are not just for information. Use your abilities and your teamwork to push a point. Don't just give up your allies' lives so that you could gain information and get a kill. That is not how you win games. You're literally just baiting your allies to their death. That is not the proper way to play in a team-based game, and it's really, really bad habits going on, especially when ranked comes out. This is really just going to hold you back without making proactive plays and using your abilities to get into silence and get into points. Do not use your teammates all the time. Now let's talk about the fourth mistake that a lot of people make, and it's targeted calls. You need to be calling things correctly. Now, I know that a lot of pre-existing calls come from other games. You're calling things like Heaven, you're calling things like Flank, and I know that these calls can work to an extent, but what I would suggest you to start doing over everything is really look, when you die in a specific spot, look underneath your minimap. It tells you exactly where you are. Call it the proper name. Eventually, over time, the community will get better at learning, and at the very least, if someone calls something, you can at least press caps lock and you can see what they're talking about. This can allow you to be way more consistent overall with the comms, and especially as this game ramps up in the ranks and ramps up into scrims and things like that, you're going to need to be able to call things correctly. Everything in the game has a name and it's labeled there just for you, so it's extremely simple. On top of that, when I talk about targeted calls, learning the location of things can help you call things better. Like, hey, there's a Phoenix low in showers. This is extremely vocal comms. You know what the enemy that is in there is. You know exactly where the location is. You can see it on the map. These are calls that can really help your team. On top of that, if you need someone to do something or guard or flank or whatever, do not call into the mic. hey, someone guard flank. This has been happening to me in my games, and it's the same way in real life. What happens in an emergency when you say, hey, someone call 911? You know what happens more often than not in an emergency when you say that openly? No one calls 911. You know why? Because everyone assumes someone else did it. It's the same way in video games. It's the same way with everything. If you don't say, hey, Cypher, can you please guard the flank? If you don't say something very specific, then everyone's just going to be like, oh, someone's got the flank, I can push up, and then your whole team gets flanked, and everyone's going to be mad at each other because it's like, I said to guard the flank. It's like, yeah, but I thought he was doing it. You know what I'm saying? You need to call specific members to do things. It's way better than just saying open comms, not giving actionable calls. These are very important going forward, guys. It's so important to get right. Now, moving on to the last and final mistake that Valorant players make is wasting utility. Now, I come from an Overwatch background, but I played tons of different games, and utility is kind of a big deal in some games when things are on cooldowns, and in Overwatch, it's already a big deal wasting utility where things are always on a cooldown, but in Valorant, you actually have to buy your abilities. So you really can't afford to waste your utility. You waste utility throughout the game, and you not only mess up your economy, but you're not going to be able to have them for rotation or later fights or impact. A lot of times you need to be a little bit more reserved with some of your utility. Now, I'm not saying don't use your utility because you definitely need to use it, but don't just blow your entire utility load right on the first person you see or the first corner. Don't throw your drone, both your raises, grenades, your ultimate. Don't throw everything at one corner because what are you going to do if they baited out your abilities? A lot of good enemies will be baiting out these abilities. They'll be peeking and then rotating so that you waste every single one of your utility and then you're not going to have it for later on. That is what good players are going to start doing against you, and you need to try and play around that. You need to make sure that you invest a certain amount to make them rotate or a certain amount to make them counter utility, but don't invest your whole utility handbook because then you're not going to have it for the next fight when the enemy rotated and they're going to be sandbagging a lot of utility for you and you're not going to have anything. And then you have to fight against all these abilities when you have none and you're probably just going to lose. I hope this concept has really made sense to you because it's very important for you to get down. And this is why characters that have utility that is on a cooldown is so important. Characters such as Sova who can gain information based on a cooldown. This means that he can use his ability right off the bat and still gain that information to allow his team to, hey, we need to commit this quarter, there's 5 people, or hey, they're probably baiting us, we shouldn't commit, and then he will still have it for more information down the line. It makes it a lot harder for the enemy team to bait him. So a character like that is really powerful, but any character with utility that's on a cooldown that can be reused is very important, and that is one of the most important reasons because enemies can bait out your utility. Anyways, that being said, if you resonated with anything in this video, do me a favor and smash that sub button. Come on, it's sitting right there for you. Look at it. Look at how big and shiny and beautiful it is. Smash it right now. Don't you want to? Now, all that being said, please put your biggest mistakes that you see Valorant players doing in the comments down below so other people can learn from it. And if you have any questions, comments, or any videos that you want me to jump right on, definitely let me know. That's all I have for you today. I'm Coach Mills, and until next time,